So this is going to be the Modpack overview and scenario overview for my new series, The Conjoiners. So this series is based upon a series of books. Well, let's say not based upon, drawing heavy inspiration from a series of books. We're not capturing the scenario from the books one-to-one. Rather, we're doing a Rimworld-ified kind of version of it. So the Conjoiners are a faction from Revelation Space, which is a novel series that actually served as an inspiration for Rimworld in the first place, which is really interesting. So that's forming the theme for this mod pack. The Conjoiners are a technological hive mind. They're a faction of augmented humans who have linked themselves together using technology. So that's the big emphasis here, is high tech and networking and stuff like that. I'll go through the mod pack here and point out the core stuff mainly, but and how that relates to the theme. So I've wanted to check out Antimatter Annihilation for a long time. Oh, I should also mention, I said in a comment a long time ago the next plan for the series was going to be a Weird West magic series. That one's been postponed. I'm doing this one first because this one meshes really well with a lot of the recent vanilla expanded mods that just came out, like the Mechanoids faction mod, and then some of the new weapons mods are really good, like coil guns. So that's why this one's being done first. It's more timely. This feels like the time to do it. So we've got Antimatter Annihilation. This will be our big endgame energy production mod we'll use. Plus, turrets and stuff like that for endgame comes from that. We've got a bunch of extra implants and cybernetics mods in here. This is an example of that. I'm trying out semi-random research, which I think is fun. Embrasures, doors. We've got a lot of the same stuff we've seen before in terms of just kind of generic structural mods. Gone Cooperative. So I've got 2 mods in here that add traits that really capture the whole feel of the Conjoiner faction by having basically auras. So this is one of those. It adds some interesting traits that kind of affect the pawns around the pawn with the trait. And that'll come up a bunch when I get to our starting characters. We've got some Rimsenal weaponry and turrets in here. The big thing with Rimsenal is if we go to Rimsenal Federation, this gives us plasma weaponry, which meshes well with the Revelation Space setting. So that's why I've done this whole Rimsenal mod setting here. We've got a bunch of extra mechanoid mods to add in too, because a big part of the Revelation Space novels and setting is artificial organisms, artificial intelligence, robots, all that kind of stuff. So we've got a whole spread of vanilla expanded stuff in here too, just to go with a heavy focus on vanilla expanded, not necessarily connecting to Revelation Space. So we got achievements, which will be interesting to check out. I've never played with this before. I mean, I've done, I don't know, 3-4 hours of testing to make sure these mods are compatible and are going to work, and to make sure, see some mods that I wasn't sure if I wanted in the mod pack or not, which have been removed. But vanilla weapons. So anti-infestation thumper. This is in here. It keeps infestations from happening around it. I'll get to why that's important later. This order is not maybe as sorted as it could be. Some extra events and incidents traits. Molloy traits is another mod that gives us some character traits that function really well as a quote-unquote hive mind. Commander and Conductor especially. They give benefits to pawns around the pawn with the trait. Little Planet. I like Little Planet, especially playing with Mechanoids Expanded, because that's got the whole Total War mechanic where ships fall. So it'd be nice to have that. Bridges, turrets, sidearms, map generator, storage, show mod designators. Yeah, a bunch of stuff we've seen before. Drilling turret. We had this in, I think, the Terminator series. It's coming back. We didn't really use it there. Maybe we'll use it here. We'll see. Some more traits. There's even more trait mods. I just kind of like having a lot of traits available. It makes the characters more distinctive. Quality Surge or Builder. We got utility columns coming back from the Terminator series. Gives us some interesting other technological ways to do some kind of support structures like coolers and lights. Z levels. This is a centerpiece mod for this mod pack. Now, as a fledgling faction of Conjoiners, See, our experiments in trans enlightenment and improving the human mind have offended many baseline humans. In the backstory of Revelation Space, there was a large war in the solar system over this, where the Conjoiners arose on Mars, and the Coalition for Neural Purity rose up to combat them because they thought that what they were doing was immoral. So to kind of capture that feel, we're going to actually build our base underground. And that's where Z-Levels comes in. So our base will be hidden under the ground. We'll have kind of just a little upper level area for defending against raids. This is going to cause some issues. Like, this is going to, from what I've seen in testing, this causes some issues with hauling and some other little issues. None of them are game breaking, so we'll just deal with it. I think it gives more than it takes away in terms of the quirks. Like, medicine's another quirk, because if you have medicine on the top floor and everybody's in the basement, they can't find the medicine to treat each other. We'll just deal with it. Wall light, weapon stats, reinforced walls, some usual stuff. Rim laser, we want some interesting energy weapons for our Revelation Space style mod pack. No self-tame, animals. Regular animals don't really factor in much into the Revelation Space setting. Designator shapes. We've got a Halo mod in here just to have some more armor variety. Exoskeletons and like power armor, stuff like that's a big part of Revelation Space, so I wanted a variety of potential armors for us to have. Exoskeletons especially are a really big part with a different faction, which are the Ultras. They're a spaceborne faction, so they tend to use exoskeletons when they're in gravity wells. Pick up and haul, heat map, graphic settings, just a bunch of the usual stuff we have. Fuses. We're using hygiene again. I think this is kind of just a permanent addition to the game at this point. I like the hygiene mod. More events, more traits, more turrets, dynamic diplomacy so the factions can interact with each other. I'm not sure if this actually makes sense on my little planet, because then you don't have multiple bases for the factions. Auto motors from the Terminator series coming back. Makes sense of the technological theme. Defense positions. Rim tasers. So, part of what I want to do is I want to restrict who comes into the colony, right? We're a secretive group of people who are seeking to improve ourselves with technology. So every colonist we have has to be transhumanist or has to join willingly. Those are the two options. So either people want to join our faction, they join us, right? Or we find a transhumanist in the field, right? Maybe fighting for the other side, but when they see what we're really about, they'll want to join us, right? So we have to tase them. We have to tase them to take them alive. So we've got a taser mod. Got some bed ownership mods. I wonder if this causes anything weird. Oops. Because I did notice there's some weird stuff with beds on multiple levels, which maybe actually is related to this mod. It doesn't break the game, though, so we'll keep it in. Even more mechanoids. Even more traits. Fences. Glitternet and Cybernet are coming back. We had Glitternet in the Terminator mod. And I think we had Cybernet, but we never did much with Cybernet. Cybernet, this time, we're going to make that a big part of it, I think. Because that'll network our colonists together even further. I think that's going to be a huge part of what our goal here is. Glitternet, also same deal. Going to be a big center point piece of this mod. It's like Mechanoids Expanded, Z-Levels, Glitternet. And then just a bunch of prosthetics mods, stuff like that. Fences, conduit deconstruct, concrete walls coming back. A bunch of vanilla expanded stuff, alpha animals. Bioreactor. Part of what the Conjoiners do is they do have Conjoiners that don't like have freeform bodies. Not to get into it too much where that comes into things. So bioreactors may be a way to represent that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how we'll use it yet. It sort of fits, but sort of doesn't, because we don't want to just load a prisoner into a bioreactor, because we're not an evil faction. We're a good faction. Put in basically all the vanilla animals mods, just because. Vanilla apparel, furniture mods, the usual stuff, weapons, lasers, of course. Fit the setting, grenades, quick draw, art, security, etc., plants, props. I'd like to use more props this time around to have more of a vibe going, but we'll see how it works out. Vanilla Faction Expanded Mechanoids. So this is a big new mod that came out that's really neat. It adds a total war mechanic to the game where you have these mechanoid ships that land on your planet, And then mechanoid raids get stronger the more ships there are, so you need to go out and control the amount of ships on the planet. Should be interesting. And then it adds a bunch of factory automation stuff that really fits with the Conjoiner vibe as well. More vanilla expanded furniture stuff. Should this be in front? This feels like it should be in front. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? This feels like it should be up here somewhere, right? Like vanilla furniture expanded should be before other stuff. Maybe it doesn't actually interact. I don't know. Where are we? We got some even more events. We've got Project Rim Factory Light. This is a recommended mod for the vanilla Mechanoids mod because it adds some different, replacement of the Industrial Rollers mod for the use with the new mod from vanilla expanded Mechanoid. So basically it supports stuff for the factories, rollers, stuff like that. Hoppers, I assume, maybe. Vanilla expanded insectoids, just to have some enemy variety. More animals, books, animals. Indoctrination virus. This is an actual Revelation Space mod. One little interesting detail of the Revelation Space universe is indoctrination viruses. Literally like viruses that indoctrinate you with religion or ideological ideas. Pretty fun. Can't craft it. It's a reward you get. It can be used to force recruit people, basically. I had to add it to the mod pack just because it's an actual Revelation Space mod. Animals, fishing, caravan options, animals, armor. Yep. Brain in a jar, another way to capture that feel of a conjoiner without a proper body. Character editor, this is how I set up my characters for the run. Rather than using prepare carefully, I used editor. The Rimsenal storytellers are in here. I don't think we're going to use them, though, actually. Vanilla animals, complex jobs, it's just the job task stuff I've been using. Running combat update in this one, which changes the combat a little bit. Yeah, you can read through this on your own, but it adjusts basically like accuracy and stuff like that. And I guess it makes higher skill matter more. If you're a really good shot, you won't fucking be missing stuff all the time like you do in base game, basically, I guess. Camera plus. I guess I put this in here. We're not going to use it either, but he's there. So, World map beautification is just a nice little quality of life kind of mod to make the world look neater. Run and gun. We're using run and gun again. Vanilla weapons expanded. Okay, yeah. So coil guns is a new vanilla weapons expanded mod that adds magnetically accelerated projectile weapons. So railguns, basically, that kind of stuff. It's a very excellent match with the Revelation Space handheld weaponry, so it's in. Also added heavy weapons. These are heavy weapons that attach to an exoskeleton, so that's pretty cool. Fits with the vibe, fits with the theme. Vanilla traits expanded, more traits, some more bionics, some more quality of life type shit. Cryogenic generator. There's a cryo-arithmetic engine from the Revelation Space universe, which is a quantum computer that does calculations, and instead of outputting heat, it takes away heat, cooling the area. So I thought it would be fun to represent those through either the cryo pillars or this cryogenic generator. So it fits in the theme pretty good. Revelation Space has spaceships, so I put SRTS in here. This also will help us deal with the mechanoid threat of having to go on the planet all the time and track down these mech ships. Plus, it's a cool mod. We used an earlier form of it in the Terminator mod where we turned it into a hunter-killer, and now it's got a bunch of different ship types in it. So it'd be really cool to check that out again. And then we have a allow tool here at the very end for whatever reason. Whoops. Yeah, do that later. I'm going to get to the scenario. So I've done a custom scenario here. We're starting with 5 people. And the reason for that is the restrictions on how we recruit new people are going to make growing the colony, especially in the early game, very difficult. So we kind of need people to cover all jobs to begin with and for defense and whatnot too. We can't, with the randomized research, we can't tunnel down like turrets or something. We have to hope it comes to us. For that very reason, I picked a few of these basic research things that we're going to need, just giving them to us out the door, like batteries, solar panels to diversify the grid, septic tanks, because setting up an underground plumbing system without septic tanks is pretty awful. I've given prosthetics to help out with the transhumanist aspect right away, and then utility columns to do an underground freezer without it being a hassle as well. And then I've done GlitterNet. We've started with GlitterNet. This is starting with GlitterNet here means we've started with multi-analyzers and high-tech research benches, so we're getting a big jump on our technology here. And given that it's randomized research and there's a lot of mods in this pack, this is like a 130 mod pack, I think it's fair to make this push to extra research quality early on. And then we've begun with the components necessary to make a thumper right away for our underground base too, so that we don't get bodied by bugs on the first couple days or whatever. So that's why there's 8 advanced components and 30 plasteel in this mod pack. Otherwise, it's basically the standard stuff you start with, adjusted for 5 people slightly. So losing is fun, reload anytime. I think Cassandra is what we'll go with here. I may change that at some point in the future, but it doesn't feel like a Randy run. We'll do a tiny planet. All right. I'm going to look around and figure out where I want to settle. Probably somewhere here near, I believe that is the friendly Civil Outlander Union's probably a good spot to settle. If we want to go out and do trade caravans, it'd be good. So I'm going to look for a favorable tile back in a second. I think this tile looks good. No caves, which is nice. Like this one has caves. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a mountainous one, but I think we'll do a mountainous one. We're slightly north of the equator. I think that's pretty decent starting location, and it's a temperate forest, which is pretty good. Yeah, we got limestone and marble, so we can do art. That seems fine. I've done a slightly larger than normal medium map. This is what I think most of my series are done on, is 275 by 275. All right, so our characters here. I've already set these up and randomized what I want to randomize. So the characters here are not one-to-one with the characters from the Revelation-based stories, but they have borrowed the names. So these are the 5 kind of main conjoiners that show up in the original trilogy. So we got Skade, Child Spy, then an Assassin. So what I've done here is everybody starts with Transhumanist, and then they start with 2 of the group effect traits. So she has Guardian and Melee Commander, since she's a melee-centric build. And then I've given 1 trait that is a good trait that relates, at least, it's a good trait for the character. So not just generically good, but has, well, some of them are just generically good. Basically, if it was a trait that would be a positive but didn't make sense with the character build, I also rerolled it. That's what I'm saying here. Like, if she would have gotten a trait that said, you're good at shooting, even though she's a melee-centric character, I would have rerolled it. So her good trait she got was super immune. And then I gave them a true random trait, good or bad, for their 5th slot. So she picked up Hermit, which is why we made her plants. And then I did this for skill distribution. Basically, it's what they start with, and then I distributed 5 or 6 passions, shit like that. And then we're starting with some fairly good armor and equipment. So mono sword, because monofilament blades show up in the stories. Some heavy armor. This is from, I believe, the Halo mod. And then jumpsuits. We have Felka. She has an exoskeleton frame, because I wanted somebody to have an exoskeleton, because it's a central part of the setting. It's not a center point of the Conjoiners themselves, which is what I mean when I say that this is inspired by and not, really a one-for-one. Because you wouldn't have Felka on the front line in a fucking exoskeleton. Giving her a laser pistol to get some weapon variety, to see some of these early game weapons, or to see some of these special weapon mods that really mesh well with the setting without getting too crazy. I gave, pistols instead of rifles. She's gotten Planner and Fire Brigadier for her group traits. And then she got Positive Artisan and randomly got Sterilizer, which she actually helps with medical operations as an assistant, basically. She's a constructor and a crafter. We have Galliana. She is incapable of violent, but she is our central researcher with 17 intellectual. She's a teacher and a luminary. So the luminary trait, we saw that in the zombie series, Room of the Dead. Basically, she gets positive to everybody if she's in a really good mood and a negative to everybody if she's in a really bad mood. She's kind of our leader character. She rolled perceptive as her positive trait and then randomly rolled very diplomatic. So she turned out to actually be a really good social character too, even though I didn't put points into it. She is our primary doctor and intellectual. Science prodigy, neuroscientist. She just has a lab coat and a jumpsuit and some boots, since she is a non-combatant. We have Neville Clavain here. Cult child, because he, in the stories, was part of the Coalition for Neural Purity before he joined the Conjoiners. So the closest backstory that kind of represents that, in my mind, was the cult child. I am firmly on team transhumanism, so fuck the fucking Luddites. God damn it. I want my awesome cybernetic future. Then adult space marine. So he's our big shooter man. He became our cooker, for lack of anybody else. Yeah, so he's got commander and conductor, which make him the range combat leader, basically. Then he got crack shot for his positive. That makes sense with his build. And then randomly rolled ugly. He is rocking standard recon armor, jumpsuit, and then he got a plasma rifle. Plasma rifles are fun. They're AoE weapons. They hit a 3x3, a 9-tile area. So to be careful with that. And Felka is the laser pistol. And then our last character, Remontois, or however you say that. I'm not even going to try. Carbon jumpsuit, a gun link, and a Gauss Magnum. So we get the lowest end coil gun here. So the fun thing with this coil gun and the plasma rifle is it gives us some really interesting area denial stuff. The big thing with these coil guns is they pierce through your target. So you hit everybody in a row when you shoot a coil gun, which is fucking cool. So I think we're going to build a kill box with an interesting design to really funnel guys into really tight places and in a line to capitalize on both the coil guns and the plasma rifle. I think that'll be really interesting. I'm in his bio, academy student, then a space merchant. So these don't really have anything to do with the character from the story. I just wanted a space merchant to really capture the Ultranaut faction. Even though we're playing Conjoiners, I wanted still a reference to the Ultranauts. So that's why we have an exoskeleton in one character and why this guy's a space merchant. It also gave him social skill and stuff like that to fill the gaps in the squad here. And then academy student, sure. Transhumanist like everybody else. And then he's got cheerleader and play leader, which are, he's kind of the support character. Rolled very perceptive as his random thing, which gave him more bonus social. And then his true random one was sanguine. So that's pretty good. We only got 1 negative on the 5 true random rolls, so the colonists in this run are pretty damn good. So yeah, let's load. We'll look at our starting map here before I end this video. It should be an interesting run. I had considered actually trying to do some mods of my own for this. I had actually started work on a Conjoiner race mod, but I couldn't do what I wanted with it to make it work exactly. All right, we'll pause here, take a quick look around. So we've got these more involved ruins from one of the other mods, so those are always fun. I think the plan is going to be, art. Ooh, look at that. That's really cool. We actually started with a couple of sculptures. That's really neat. I think our plan is going to be to kind of bunker down somewhere. What the fuck are you? What are you from? Alpha animals, okay. I kind of want a centralized location where we can really capitalize on mountain. So I'm thinking we might just set up in here. But we can worry about that. I can worry about that between episodes. Well, here's what we're in for. We'll be starting digging down right away. Until next time, then.